What's the worst physical pain you ever felt? Abscessed tooth, but wait, let me finish. Abscessed tooth after the dentist removed the wrong tooth. The one next to the abscessed tooth on the way home when the local wore off. Oh my God, I would be furious. I would demand unlimited number 2. Why would you want unlimited poop? Spoken like someone who's obviously never had unlimited poop. Kidney stones and it's not close-eat. Hijacking my own comment because people are asking about prevention. Drink more water than you do now, just hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Gallbladder stones and not just a few attacks like hundreds before removal. My brother spent the night in a cardiac unit because he thought he was having a heart attack. Turned out his gallbladder was infected, perforated, and full of stones. He ended up in emergency surgery to remove it. My girlfriend is in residency for general surgery, and I was blown away to find out how often she's removing gallbladders. Lots of people out there dealing with that awful situation. The gall of those people. Pilonidal cyst right on your tailbone. From snowboarding and then having to sit on a 4-hour flight doesn't sound like much. But if you've had one, sitting upright was heck. This happened to me when I was 18 years old. I attempted to ignore it for a week and it got so bad that I could not sit down. Idiot teenager move right there. I believe it came from a tailbone injury much earlier in life. I'll never forget the day I got it lanced. The doctor needed to numb the area before he lanced it. There I was laying on my stomach in the exam table with my butt exposed to the world. The doctor tells me he's about to apply the lane to spray, and boy did he do that very liberally. So much so that it dripped down to the back of my balls and felt like someone stabbed my nuts with an ice pick. Still, the cyst was some of the worst pain I've ever been in. And then the constant packing of the gauze daily that my poor neighbor, who was a nurse, offered to do for me. Now, if that's not neighborly, I don't know what is. The packing is such a strange, horrible feeling. Like I wouldn't call it painful, just like physically feeling nails on chalkboard on your A. And cleaning it out in the shower, the little spray of water right into the wound. Oh, I'd forgotten about that bit. Thanks. Testicular torsion. I was 17 and didn't know what it was, thought it might be blue balls. So waited until it was the size of a grapefruit and in excruciating pain, and had mom take me to the ER. Half my testicle was dead, but I got a demerol drip and all was good after that. But oh boy, that pain was significantly worse than the kidney stones. Really, oh man, I've never had testicular torsion, but I've had a shitload of kidney stones and I can't imagine anything worse than that. And now a word from the Scrotal Safety Commission. Can confirm, had a testy torsion while deployed overseas and couldn't do anything about it until we got back. Who's gonna call a medevac for nut pain? Got back the next day. Got shipped to a big fob immediately via a medevac chopper and operated on in theater in the wartime country. Lost my left nut, but everything still works fine. Worst effin' pain ever. I mean, so bad. Pulling a tooth without numbing is like getting pinched versus shot. I'm good on my pain tolerance now, lol. I wonder how testicular torsion compares to a ruptured testicle. Because playing hardball, I took a line drive to the old breadbasket and holy F did it hurt. I freaked out when blood started to pool in my scrotum, and the testicle was swollen as large as a grapefruit. I remember the continuous biting pain even on heavy pangs. Can also confirm that I have had my jewels smashed before, but not ruptured. Torsion was still worse pain. Gout. I thought lovingly about removing my foot with a hacksaw on numerous occasions till I got my meds dialed in. The weight of a bedsheet was like a spiked boulder resting on my foot. That's exactly how I described it to people too. I've been on allopurinol with no flare-ups in 17 years. At my last yearly physical, the new young associate questioned why I really needed to take allopurinol anymore. I told him to renew my prescription or I'd find a new doctor. No way I'm going through that pain again. Effing quack. Opened up a pressure cooker while it was still on the stove back in the 90s. 40% of skin surface burned and my heart is now on a stick. And that just reinforced my decision of releasing the pressure with a stick or something. To be completely honest, I was using the pressure cooker to cook moonshine in the woods. That's another currency in Russia. Nobody wants money in the villages. But I was about 14 years old or so and didn't know the entire spiel on how things work. The most Russian thing I've heard in a while. Sneezed and herniated a disc in my back. Couldn't walk for 5 days. This was almost 2 months ago and I can still barely stand for longer than 5 minutes at a time. Edit to add, after reading some of the replies to my comment. I am one of the lucky ones apparently. I feel bad for all of you and sorry, but I hope I don't have this problem as long as all of you have. I herniated 3 discs simultaneously in December 2021. I had to be rushed screaming to the ER. Almost 2 years later, I still have nerve pain through my back and down my leg, and my daily life is still impacted by it. I have 3 herniated discs too. It's been over 8 years and it sucks. The worst part of a herniated disc injury is that by all appearances you look normal. Like you should be able to just go snowboarding quivered with the crew, or help someone move, or lift that randomly heavy thing, or do dislike ver. And you can't, and people try not to judge you, but you know they judge you. I've been called old man more times than I can count. And it effing hurts as bad as the back pain every time I hear that. And MBSP, like I'd rather have this than paralysis or missing limbs. And my heart goes out to those that have that. It's worse than this. But something very few understand is the mental anguish with knowing you can almost do activities that your peers are doing, but not quite, and that people judge you for it. You explained it perfectly, 100% accurate. I was in the car accident that caused it when I was 29, so relatively young. When I'm in public and my wife has to lift the water cases onto the shopping cart, and I get dirty looks from people expecting me to do it because I'm young and a man. Then they see me limp away and their facial expressions change. Stepping on a stingray, and I've given birth before. Finally, someone who understands I don't got beef with stingrays, but stingrays. Hurt so effing bad. I feel like many folks don't realize that they're venomous and that the venom is legitimately excruciating. I mean, well before I realized they were venomous, I assumed they were venomous. I didn't know until I was stung and Googled after I came ashore in growing pain. Sad thing to admit, BC, I'm a bit of a sea life geek. Good thing I had my phone, BC. It also told me the remedy, basically a scalding hot water soak for 1 hour. Hockey puck at 80 km versus my right testicle, resulting in a testicular rupture and a surgery 2 days later, and didn't lose it either. I'm not even a man, but this made me shiver. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, sounds like heck. My surgeon is incredible and I have a 5-month-old daughter now. Is the surgeon the dad? No, she's the mom, just a really awkward meet cute. I had insertion hurt worse than my miscarriages, and one of those came with an infection. Truly, you'd think they would give us something for that instead of take 3 a leave before you get here. I didn't even get that warning. I almost passed out during insertion. Definitely in my top 3 most painful moments. That SH was excruciating, not so much during the procedure, but afterwards the cramping was on par with labor pains. The doctor had told me to get dressed afterwards, and I couldn't get up off the table, BC. I would have fainted, so I just waited. Eventually, he came back and was completely bewildered as to why I was still lying there. I was so disoriented, I don't know how I drove myself home. 2 days later, I still couldn't move out of a fetal position and called the nurse line to beg for pain meds. They acted like I was being dramatic, but at least gave me a prescription. And an hour after the first dose, I was back to being able to stand up again. Yeah, periods for the next 6-ish months were debilitating. Even now, I'll occasionally get a rogue cramp that puts me in a fetal position. Getting the IUD is worth it, but dear God, it hurts so bad. A wasp once got trapped under my eyelid whilst I was out walking. Not sure how many times it stung me, but it was horrific. Pretty much shut me down for an hour. Wait, what? Was it a small wasp? How does this happen? I am so sorry. Yeah, it was only small. Once I felt it, I shut my eye really hard and started rubbing it. I must have pushed it under my lower eyelid, I guess. I managed to get it out after a few seconds, but a few seconds after that the pain kicked in. After about an hour, it was totally gone and my eye was fine. That would help put me in a darn coffin. I can't handle stuff in my eye. Oh my God. Shingles and cervical spinal stenosis. Shingles is a very weird and painful pain, stabbing, stinging, itching, but also don't touch it. Had my wisdom teeth cut out. Halfway through one tooth the medicine wore off. They couldn't renumb it as it was halfway hanging out of my mouth. So I felt everything as they finished removing my wisdom tooth. I got my wisdom teeth removed earlier this year. I'm so glad that the anesthetic lasted the whole time because the pain afterward for the 2 days after was so unbearable. I couldn't imagine what the pain would be during the removal. They gave me numbing med for 3 times. For 2 times it was too much and the dentist keep telling me that it's just a pressure. No, I know the difference between pain and pressure. Trigeminal neuralgia. Excruciating stabbing pains triggered by any and everything. You can't touch your face, brush your teeth, eat, kiss, lay on your side, nothing involving your mouth. It's like a relentless ice pick stabbing you or a million electric shocks. Sooner or later, you will want to die. That's why they call it side disease. My answer also, truly and easily the worst experience of my entire life. And there's so little that can be done. I called the out-of-hours doctors once because I was honestly worried I'd just kill myself. I was lectured about the service being primarily for cancer patients and accused of having sniffed solvents. The doctors could only throw stronger and stronger pain meds my way, which weren't ideal as I was a single mom to a 7-year-old at the time. Ended up with a bit of Teflon in my brain to separate the collapsed blood vessel and the nerve that was causing the entire SH show. If you ever forget something, just tell people your thoughts are non-stick. Glad you are feeling better. Most recently, swollen and clogged milk ducts. Mastitis is seriously not talked about enough when nurses talk about nursing. It's so darn painful. Yes, I remember sobbing in the shower every day trying to squeeze the milk out. I stopped producing over 2 years ago, but sometimes I get little pangs of pain in my breasts and I get a flood of fear thinking about how bad the pain was. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Gallbladder attacks. My doctor misdiagnosed this for 2 months. I thought I was gonna die for sure. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months because eating was torture. Started telling my wife to move on quickly after I died for the kids' sake. Then my sister-in-law was like, "That sounds like it's your gallbladder." 3 days later, I had it removed and my doctor still apologizes every time I see him. Same here. My doctor was adamant it was ulcers and kept prescribing me different ulcer medications, even though the ultrasounds confirmed my gallbladder was overflowing with gallstones. Went on for almost a year before I saw a different doctor, and he right away was like, "We need to remove your gallbladder ASAP." I woke up during my first wisdom tooth surgery to the dentist drilling the teeth, but still couldn't move. I managed to make a noise when she started scraping out the tooth chips. Turns out she didn't have anesthesia and used a high dose of Vicodin, and I had a high tolerance for pain meds because of recreational use with my buddies. I remember her finally noticing and looking into my eyes, and her face just went pale. And she looked so scared I can't imagine what I must have looked like. This is exactly the reason you always tell your dentist if you use recreational DS. I came in high for an appointment, and it turned out I needed one of my teeth drilled right then. And I freaked out and told them I was super high on oxy. They thanked me profusely because mixing in more anesthetics can get yooked. Always tell medical professionals everything. Never ever lie to your DRS or your lawyer or your accountant. Ovarian torsion from a giant cyst, worse than a broken neck and childbirth. I just saw this comment after I posted the same thing. Worst pain ever. Found out my cyst was 6 inches wide and twisted. I don't wish that on anyone. Cluster headaches and migraine. Been getting cluster headaches since I was 14. Mushrooms have been a literal lifesaver. Before I found those work for preventing cluster cycles, I tried to throw myself out of a window to make the pain stop. They haven't been nicknamed side headaches for nothing. Cluster headaches can make a perfectly normal person go absolutely insane. I know some women who get them and they all say they would rather deal with giving birth than deal with a cluster headache. There is ADS, Inc. episode that features a Texas man who grows his own psilocybin mushrooms to treat his cluster headaches. He's not your typical psychonaut, dislikes the trip, but does it because it keeps the headaches at bay. It works for him, 100%. I think he doses about once every 3 months. You know it's bad when you'd rather have a bad shrooms trip. Pleurisy, pain in lungs, hit to stand up, lay down, sit, it did not matter. I thought I was dying when I had this. When my dad passed away a couple months ago, my heart and chest hurt so much. It was unbearable. Haven't felt pain ever since. I wasn't even considering grief and psychological pain. I might have to edit my original answer. When my mom died, it was partially my fault. This happened during the most turbulent time in my life. I lost it completely for like 2 years. That was the worst pain of my entire life. By far. I wouldn't wish that on my own wish enemy. Edit. I'm sorry for your loss, homie. I know how bad that hurts. It gets easier with time. You never truly get over it, but you get used to it. Ovarian cyst, apparently that stuff can KU, and I've only had it twice ever. But it's worse than anything else I've ever dealt with, and I am not a clever gal. So I've dealt with my share of pain. Oof, those are the worst. The first one I had, I was 14 and thought my appendix had burst. My parents had to take me to the ER where I got my first pelvic cam by the world's oldest man. Traumatic as heck. I also thought it was my appendix at 14 yo. Ended up going to the mall while sweating buckets and feeling like I was having a hot knife twisted inside my torso. Because in my stupid child brain I assumed if it was actually serious I wouldn't be able to move, and I needed a new pair of shoes. Turns out I just have a really high pain tolerance. I'm really lucky it didn't do more damage. Childbirth, traumatic labor, and my hernia repair operation. Same here. I had the epidural. But apparently I was in the wrong position for it to work for a few of the most awful hours of my life. Add to that the blood pressure cuff that I had to wear throughout. Thanks. Preeclampsia? and that always seemed to inflate right as I was having a contraction. And then, after it ended up being a C-section, having to get out of bed to walk the 3 feet to the bathroom. Related, ladies, don't ever let anyone give you shit about having a C-section. It is not the easy way out. It is serious abdominal surgery where you then have to be able to get up and walk around not long afterwards. We lived in a second-floor garden apartment at the time, and I was in tears thinking about having to walk up the stairs when we got home with the baby. Oh, it's definitely not the easy way out. I remember the poor lady who'd had a C-section across from me and she needed some help. I felt bad that I couldn't do anything, but I could barely move myself. Epidural also didn't work on me due to positioning, and I am absolutely not doing that again. That was definitely one of the deciding factors when we opted to be one and done. I can't put my body through all that again. Same, no interest in going through that a second time, plus I'm almost 40. Mine is a very energetic and full-on kid, so I'm glad I made that decision anyway.